Discover divine control. Trust God's plan in the unexpected and miraculous transformations. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, son of Josiah, king of Judah, Joseph, the favored son of Jacob, tended his father's flocks in the lush pastures of Canaan. The warm sun bathed the fields in gold, while his dreams flickered like flames in the stillness of the night. Each night, visions of his future danced before him, sheaves bowing, stars aligning. His mother, Rachel, adorned him with a glorious robe of many colors, a vision of love that ignited envy in the hearts of his brothers. They could not bear the reminder of their father's unique affection for him, and jealousy simmered like a pot on the fire. One morning, Jacob, unaware of the darkness brewing among his sons, sent Joseph to check on them in the fields, laden with supplies and hope. As he approached, laughter turned to hushed whispers, eyes narrowing with malice. They plotted, driven by jealousy, and seized Joseph, stripping him of the very robe that signified his father's love. With a collective shout, they cast him into a deep pit, their hearts blinded to the divine orchestration at play. As he sank into the darkness, a caravan passed, bound for Egypt. Ensnared in their own hatred, his brothers sold him into slavery. Joseph's despair, a reflection of his separation from family, mingled with an unwavering trust in Yahweh. In the house of Potiphar, a high official, Joseph's diligence and integrity drew God's favor upon him. Yet, betrayal lingered as shadows hovered. Falsely accused by Potiphar's wife, Joseph found himself shackled in the depths of a dungeon, years slipping away like grains of sand. In the prison's cold embrace, hope flickered faintly. But still, Joseph clung to the promise of his dreams. When the cupbearer and baker were imprisoned alongside him, he interpreted their dreams as a divine gift, a harbinger of future redemption. Yet, even as he awaited the fulfillment of his destiny, he remained unnoticed among the shadows of despair. As famine swept through the land of Canaan, Jacob's family was pressed to seek sustenance in Egypt. They journeyed, unaware that they would stand before the brother they had wronged. In the halls of Pharaoh, Joseph had risen, adorned in Egyptian garments, authority emanating from him like the sun's rays over the Nile. When his brothers approached, fear gripped them, recognition mirrored betrayal in their eyes. With trembling hearts, they stood before him, each one bearing the weight of shame. "Is my father still alive?" Joseph's voice, thick with emotion, broke through the tension, a question laden with years of yearning and pain. At that moment, he spoke words imbued with wisdom and divine understanding. "It was not you who sent me here, but God." Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. The brothers, swept up in turmoil, could only tremble before him. Each face told a story of regret, of a past shrouded in shadows of betrayal. Yet here stood Joseph, embodying the grace of divine mercy, poised to offer restoration. As the air thickened with unspoken words, would they find forgiveness? The chapter of their lives hung in the balance, each heartbeat echoing the mystery of divine providence and the hope of reconciliation. Would this fractured family be made whole, or would the scars of betrayal run too deep to heal? Joseph, perceiving the fear and anguish in his brother's eyes, felt a stirring within him, a desire to heal what had been ripped asunder by their past actions. His heart, though burdened by the memories of betrayal, was tempered by the flame of forgiveness kindled by the Lord's grace. "Come near to me," Joseph commanded softly, the authority in his voice both gentle and commanding. The brothers, trembling and hesitant, stepped forward, each step echoing the weight of their guilt upon their shoulders. "I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt," he began, the revelation striking like a lightning bolt. "But I say to you, do not be distressed nor angry with yourselves for selling me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life." His words poured forth with the power of divine truth, cutting through the shadows of despair. the brothers stood in disbelief, their minds racing to reconcile the man before them with the memory of their heinous act. "How can this be?" Judah whispered, his heart heavy with sorrow. "What manner of man are you, that God would bless you after the evil we have done?" Joseph continued, his voice steady yet filled with compassion. "For the famine has been in the land these 2 years, and there are yet 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to keep alive for you many survivors." Genesis 45 verses 6-7, a holy silence enveloped the chamber as the realization dawned upon them. They had not merely wronged their brother, they had unwittingly participated in God's grand design. Joseph's eyes glistened with tears of joy and sorrow intertwined. "It is not I who stands before you as your accuser, but the agent of God's mercy." The brothers, shaken to their cores, fell upon their faces, weeping. "Forgive us, O brother," they cried, the admission of guilt breaking forth like a dam long held under pressure. Their sorrow, a river of penitence, flowed from their hearts, seeking the grace they had once denied another. Joseph knelt before them, extending the hand of reconciliation. "Let not your heart be troubled," he reassured them. "I will provide for you and your little ones." His embrace, filled with the warmth of brotherly love, cast out their fear, illuminating the path toward healing. As the tears dried, Joseph instructed them to return to their father, bringing him to Egypt where he could dwell securely with his family. "For the Lord has made me Lord of all Egypt," he proclaimed with a holy confidence that echoed through the corridors of that great land. "Hurry and bring him to me." As they departed to fulfill this divine directive, the heavens witnessed the reunion of a family long fractured. Jacob's heart leapt, his son Joseph alive and thriving against all odds. The tender threads of restoration began to weave through the tapestry of their lives anew, yet as the dust settled and the familial bonds began to mend, a deeper mystery lingered in the air like a faint whisper. The fulfillment of Joseph's initial dreams loomed, a foreboding promise yet to unfurl. What further plans did the Lord hold for Joseph and his family? The echoes of divine providence spoke of unfathomable grace, suggesting that their story was far from complete. They had entered a season of reunion, but what challenges awaited them in the land of Egypt? And how would their lives intertwine with the unfolding story of a nation? The depth of God's sovereign plan awaited revelation, for darkness had not yet extinguished the light of hope, nor had the trials prepared them fully for the glory set before them. And so the brothers journeyed from the land of grain, laden not only with the provisions Joseph had bestowed upon them but with the fervent spirits rekindled by forgiveness. Yet the weight of their hidden sin clung to them still, an unyielding shadow that could not be cast aside without a reckoning. As they approached the land of Canaan, the dust of their footsteps mingled with memories of treachery, and Judah, the eldest brother, felt a deep stirring within his heart. "What shall we say to our father?" he pondered aloud, turning to his brethren. "How shall we reveal the truth of our brother not only being alive but exalted in power? Will he not mourn our betrayal even more?" Reuben, the firstborn, shook his head solemnly. "We must speak with integrity. We shall confess all that transpired, lest the guilt that gnaws at our souls bring heartache upon our father in silence." Thus they journeyed forth, arriving at the tent of their father Jacob, whose heart had long been engulfed in sorrow since the loss of his beloved Joseph. The brothers stood before him, trembling, the air thick with anticipation. Jacob lifted his head, troubled by their countenance. "What has come to pass?" he inquired, eyes scanning the faces of his sons, for their eyes bespoken of a tale untold. "Father," Judah began, "we have returned from Egypt, and the Lord of the land hath blessed us beyond measure. But we must confess. That same Lord is Joseph, your son whom you thought lost to the jaws of death." Jacob's heart froze, disbelief washed over him like a sudden storm. "Joseph? Alive?" His voice trembled. "Nay, it cannot be. My heart cannot bear this double-edged truth." With fervor, the brothers recounted all that had transpired, their grievous deeds, Joseph's magnificent rise, and the sovereign hand of God that led him to preserve life during the great famine. "He bid us to bring you here," to dwell safely in the land of Egypt, for there is yet 5 years of famine. Joseph's words, their message of hope echoed through their hearts. These words, a flicker of hope ignited in Jacob's weary heart. He strained to believe, but the depths of loss had carved profound valleys in his spirit. Yet as the brothers recounted the vibrant details of Joseph's glory, the weight of despair began to lift. Is it really Joseph? He wondered aloud, scarcely daring to breathe the name. See the wagon sent, carrying his gifts, evidence of his power. They urged. He is Lord of all Egypt, and our brother reigns in favor. As the sun dipped low, casting a golden hue over the encampment, Jacob's heart swelled with an unspoken longing, and tears streamed down his aged face. It is enough, he declared, Joseph my son is yet alive, I will go to see him before I die. Thus an unexpected stir of joy claimed their hearts, sweeping through the camp like the sweet fragrance of spring blossoms after the chill of winter. They prepared for the journey, the prospect of reunion bolstering their spirits anew. Yet among them, a quiet tension lingered, for burdens bore kinship with the blessings bestowed. How would this family, once frayed by betrayal, weave their story into the unfolding tapestry of Egypt? Would joy truly prevail, or would hidden resentments and pain forge new trials amidst grace? And so, as Jacob and his sons prepared to set forth, the darkness of the past loomed, mingling with the light of hope. The divine narrative awaited its next chapter, a promise wrapped in mystery, whispering of the trials that would forge a nation. What would become of God's covenant in the days to come? And it came to pass that Jacob, filled with the buoyancy of renewed hope, gathered his family around him, his countenance transformed. Let us prepare ourselves for the journey. We are to see Joseph, my son, whom I thought lost forever, he said, his voice trembling with anticipation. The brothers, buoyed by their father's eagerness, set about to gather their possessions and the gifts they would bring to Joseph. They filled their sacks with the finest fruits of the land, and as they worked, the atmosphere thrummed with a mix of excitement and trepidation. Yet, beneath this hopeful exterior, the weight of their past lingered like a heavy mist. As the household bustled, Reuben took a moment to address Judah, his voice low. Do you not feel the weight of our actions, brother? What if father cannot reconcile this truth? What if Joseph harbors resentment against us? Judah pondered this deeply, gazing towards the horizon where the sun began to set. What is past cannot be changed. Yet hope anchors the heart. If God has restored our brother, can we not trust that he will reconcile the hearts of our family? Thus, they set forth, their caravan moving steadily towards Egypt, the rich fields of Canaan fading behind them. A prophecy breathed life in Jacob's heart, one that resided deep in his soul, richer than the grains they had brought home. The Lord spoke to me in dreams, saying that through Joseph, nations shall be restored. The journey was long and filled with many discussions of God's faithfulness. One night, as they camped under sprawling stars, Jacob spoke to them of the covenant. Remember the promises made to Abraham and Isaac. My father was given the assurance that our lineage would be as countless as the stars above. Even in sorrow, we are called to be a great nation. As winds rustled the evening leaves, the brothers considered these words, and a holy awe enveloped them. Never had they grasped that the divine hand would orchestrate a reunion not only for their family but for the preservation of God's people. Finally, they approached the borders of Egypt, where the grand city loomed like a beacon in the night. Upon entering, they marveled at the splendor before them, and the people bustling through the streets reminded them of the life that flourished under Joseph's reign. With heightened anticipation, they stood before the palace gates, where the officials guarded and the banners of Egypt flapped in the fervent breeze. Jacob's heart beat fast, almost as if it too yearned to reunite with its long-lost part. Give word to the Lord of Egypt. Jacob commanded. Tell him that his father Jacob wishes to behold his face once more. As they conveyed this message, Joseph, now adorned in royal linen, caught sight of his brothers from afar. The recognition struck him with mighty force, a wave of emotions cresting within him. Could it be that the dreams he had dreamed were fulfilled at last? His heart raced as he strode forth to meet them, a mixture of joy and tangled memories swirling in his spirit. The brothers stood frozen, shadows of their treachery encasing them in fear. Yet Joseph approached, his eyes filled with unquenchable love, the very love that had transformed sorrow into joy. He could hardly contain himself, for he longed to embrace them and speak words of forgiveness, but before he spoke, he turned his heart to God, seeking divine counsel. What will become of the family, Lord? What purpose lies ahead for us? Joseph pulled back, awaiting God's divine revelation, his heart open to his sovereign will. For he knew that this was not merely a family meeting, it was the beginning of a divine unfolding, and so, as hearts lay bare, and emotions ran deep, the tapestry of God's plan lay before them, woven with threads of forgiveness and redemption, awaiting the touch of divine transformation. How would the stories of this family change the course of history? The air thickened with both apprehension and hope, for the tapestry of God's sovereign grace was yet to reveal its majestic design. And Joseph approached his brothers with a heart trembling in anticipation, yet filled with compassion. He drew near, and the weight of unspoken words hung between them like a thick fog. "I am Joseph, your brother," he said, voice resonating with love and authority. "Whom you sold into Egypt." The brothers' faces turned pale as fear gripped their hearts, for they feared retribution for their past sins. But Joseph, filled with the love of God, continued, "Do not be distressed, nor be angry with yourselves, for God sent me before you to preserve life." With these words, he revealed the divine purpose in his suffering, assuring them that what was meant for evil had been orchestrated for good. 2 years have passed since the famine began, Joseph explained, and there are yet 5 more years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. God has made me Lord of all Egypt. Come near to me, I pray you. As his brothers drew close, Joseph embraced each of them, their barriers of fear and guilt crumbling in the warmth of his forgiving spirit, the room filled with tears of both sorrow and joy, regret turned to relief as hearts began to heal. "You see," Joseph declared, "it was not you who sent me here, but God. He has made me a father to Pharaoh and lord of all his house. I hold the power to save you, to restore you, and to ensure our family's future." Jacob's sons were astonished, grappling with the enormity of the revelation and the kindness they had never thought would await them. Joseph's joy mirrored that of old, for he had longed for this moment of reunion. The years of his trials flashed before him, yet amid the trials, there had always been a whisper of divine promise guiding him through despair. Then Joseph laid out his plan for their safety. "Hasten, and go up to my father, and say to him, 'Thus says your son Joseph, God has made me Lord of all Egypt, come down to me and do not tarry. You shall dwell in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near me, you, and your children and your children's children.'" The brothers returned home with a mixture of overwhelming joy and the weight of their confession still fresh upon them. They relayed the message of Joseph's forgiveness and the divine intervention that had shaped their fate. Jacob, upon hearing the news, could hardly believe his ears, yet he felt the stirring of hope swell within him as he saw the wagons laden with provision. "Is it true? My son Joseph, alive?" he exclaimed, as the joy of reunion flickered in his heart like a candle's flame. His spirit revived, and with urgency, he prepared himself to go down to Egypt, confident that the hand of God was at work, fulfilling his promises. As they journeyed back, the brothers began to recount the past, seeking the forgiveness of their father and the healed hearts of their family. The teachings of old echoed in their minds, reminding them of the promise made to Abraham, that through their lineage, blessings would flow as the stars of heaven and the sands of the sea. What began as a story of betrayal and grief was transforming into a narrative of hope and restoration. In God's perfect timing, they were all to be gathered, not only for the sake of family, but for the unfolding of a grander design, the preservation of a holy people, and thus, as they reached the borders of Egypt once more, a new chapter loomed ahead. How would this meeting of hearts forever alter the tapestry of their lives? The stage was set, and the whispers of God's plan echoed loud and clear, for in every turn, he was sovereign, weaving the threads of destiny into an intricate masterpiece. What marvelous turn of divine providence awaited them next? And it came to pass, as Jacob and his sons made their way toward Egypt, a cloud of anticipation enveloped them. The road was long, but their hearts raced with a newfound hope, believing that this reunion with Joseph would not only mend their broken family but fulfill the promises of God made to their forebears. When they arrived in the land of Egypt, it was as if the very air carried the weight of expectation. Word of Joseph's power had spread throughout the land, and the glory of his position shimmered like gold. The brothers felt both awe and fear as they entered the courts of Pharaoh, where Joseph awaited them. Joseph, adorned in the garments of his authority, was a figure of royal splendor. Upon seeing his father, he could contain himself no longer. He ran to Jacob, falling upon his neck and weeping, an overwhelming tide of emotion flooding over him. "Father! In your presence, my soul finds rest," he exclaimed, and the sound of his tears echoed through the chamber. Jacob, trembling, paused in disbelief, yet his heart was ignited with joy. "Now let me die, since I have seen your face, because you are still alive," he murmured, grasping tightly the son who was lost to him. Amid this tender reunion, Joseph's brothers stood to the side, their hearts heavy with the remembrance of their grievous past. Yet, observing this sacred moment of joy, they too were drawn into the tapestry of reconciliation being woven before their eyes. Joseph, seeing his brothers' trepidation, turned to comfort them. "You did not come to me in your strength but through the orchestration of God's own hand. Do not be troubled by your past, for our Father's plan was greater than your betrayal." His words, full of grace, brought relief as the weight of guilt began to dissipate in the warmth of his embrace. He then spoke to his family, "You shall dwell in the land of Goshen, for the finest of this land is now yours, and here we shall flourish as a family." He turned to Pharaoh, declaring, "My family has come to dwell in this land, and I ask that they be given a place which reflects the bounty of this nation." Pharaoh, having great regard for Joseph, gladly bestowed the finest pastures upon them. "Let them be shepherds of the flock, as they are skilled in this craft." Thus, the blessing flowed abundantly, a testament to God's faithfulness. As they settled in Goshen, the family grew in number and stature. Their presence became a beacon of hope to the surrounding nations, and the stories of their lineage began to whisper through the valleys of Egypt. Yet, amidst the joy, Joseph felt the stirring of a deeper burden upon his heart. He remembered the dreams that had once troubled him, dreams of sheaves bowing down and celestial bodies aligning, and he understood that his journey was intricate and far-reaching. In the stillness of the night, God spoke to Joseph, saying, "Fear not, for what I have begun, I shall now fulfill. Through you, I will preserve life, not only for this family but for the nations. A greater purpose unfolds, and from your seed shall a multitude arise, through whom the promise to Abraham will endure." And so, a divine mystery loomed in the air, a call to walk boldly in the shadows of the unknown, for little did Joseph and his family realize that the hand of God was not yet finished. The echoes of past promises stirred a hunger for a fate entwined with a covenant yet unfurled. What would be the next chapter in this narrative woven by the Almighty? The stage was set for revelations of faith that would shake the foundations of empires, and Joseph stood poised to witness the unfolding of God's sovereign design, for he alone knew the depths of what was to come. And it came to pass that as days turned into months, the family of Jacob flourished in the land of Goshen. Their flocks multiplied, and their influence among the Egyptians grew, yet amidst this prosperity lay a quiet yearning within Joseph's heart, a gnawing awareness that the journey ahead was rife with challenges ordained by God. One day, as Joseph attended to the business of the land, news of a great famine began to spread from far-off lands. It swept like a dark cloud over those who relied heavily on the bounty of the harvest. The ministers of Pharaoh gathered, their faces weighted with concern. Joseph, aware of the divine revelations he had received, knew that this season of drought would not pass without consequence. He remembered God's faithful words, "Through you, I will preserve life," and he steeled himself for the tasks that lay ahead. With great wisdom, Joseph sought to prepare Egypt for the impending trials. He gathered corn from the fields during the plentiful years, storing it in granaries throughout the land. His brothers, unaware of the calamity to come, continued to tend to their flocks, relishing their newfound security in Egypt, yet Joseph carried the weight of future burdens, his heart laden with the knowledge that his family's fate was intertwined with the nations around them. As the famine took hold, the cries of the hungry reached far and wide. Those from distant lands journeyed to Egypt seeking the provisions Joseph had amassed. Among them were the very brothers who had once cast him into the depths of despair. Unbeknownst to them, they were about to confront the very man they had wronged. "Go, and buy grain for us," Jacob commanded his sons, who looked upon one another with a mix of fear and recollection. "For we shall perish if we do not seek help." They ventured forth, the road weary beneath their feet, the past tightly woven into their hearts. Arriving in Egypt, they were met not by a stranger, but by their own brother, now clad in the authority of Pharaoh's court. Joseph, perceiving their arrival, summoned them with a heavy spirit yet cloaked in the guise of Egyptian nobility. When they stood before him, uncertainty gripped their hearts. They did not recognize him. The years had altered his appearance, yet his eyes mirrored a depth of understanding only he could hold. "You are spies," he proclaimed, his voice steady, yet a silent anguish echoed within him. "You have come to see the nakedness of the land." The brothers were bewildered, their voices trembling. "No, my lord, we are here to buy food. We are all sons of one man, we are honest men." Joseph, grappling with his emotions, sought to elicit the truth. "One of you must remain here, while the rest return to fetch your youngest brother, only then shall I know your words are true." His heart yearned to see Benjamin, the brother who had remained, lost in the shadows of their shared history. In the midst of their dialogue, the brothers' conscience stirred. They spoke among themselves, recalling their past sins against Joseph. "We are suffering for our transgressions," they lamented, their hearts heavy with guilt, unaware that the very man they were speaking of stood before them. Joseph turned away, his heart breaking at their admission. The divine orchestration of God was at hand, for the answer to their plight would bring a hope neither they nor he could yet imagine. His spirit ignited with a profound understanding. Reconciliation must precede restoration. As the days unfolded, Joseph knew that the hands of providence were shaping a future beyond the reach of their understanding. Would they recognize the path toward redemption? Time unfolded like the scroll of prophecy, whispering of imminent trials and divine intervention. Little did they know, the threads of their lives were drawing closer to the fulfillment of a covenant that would echo through generations, and Joseph was the key in the heart of God's unfolding plan. Would they make their way back, or would fear hold them captive in the shadows of their past? Only the Lord knew the depths of this divine narrative. And it came to pass that a heavy silence fell upon the brothers as Joseph turned away from them, sorrowful in spirit. He commanded that Simeon be bound before their eyes, to remain in Egypt as a pledge until they returned with Benjamin. As they departed, their hearts were burdened with fear and remorse, for they felt the weight of their actions pressing heavily upon them. When they reached their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they recounted all that had transpired, a tale of a stern Egyptian lord who seemed to know their darkest secrets. "He spoke harshly to us," they confessed. "And he demanded that we bring our youngest brother. He said that if we do not bring him back, we shall not see his face again." Jacob's face darkened with grief. "You have bereaved me of my children," he lamented. "Joseph is no more, and now you seek to take Benjamin away. All these things are against me." Yet the famine grew severe, and necessity thrust upon them an urgency they could not deny. When their provisions ran low, Jacob, with great reluctance, summoned his sons once more, saying, "Go back, buy us a little food." Judah, speaking with a heart both bold and humble, responded, "The man solemnly warned us, 'You shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. If you send Benjamin with us, we will go down and buy food, but if you will not send him, we will not go." With a heavy heart, Jacob deliberated, for he feared the loss of another son. "Why were you so cruel to me," he asked, "as to tell the man you had another brother?" They replied, "The man questioned us closely about ourselves and our family. We told him the truth. Could we possibly have known that he would say, 'Bring your brother down'? And he said, 'If it must be so, then do this, take some of the best fruits of the land in your vessels, and carry down a present for the man, a little balm, and a little honey, spices, and myrrh, nuts and almonds. Take double the money in your hand.' Perhaps it was an oversight." They prepared to embark on their journey, filled with trepidation and hope, knowing their brother's fate rested in the balance. Little did they comprehend that beyond the dark cloud of their past, a light of divine providence was guiding them. As they returned to Egypt, Joseph, standing in authority, received their approach with a heart filled with mixed feelings, the desire for reconciliation battling with memories of anguish. He instructed his steward, saying, "Bring these men to my house, they will dine with me at noon." The brothers trembled at the thought of the Egyptian lord's intentions. "Surely, this is because of the money that was returned in our sacks," they whispered among themselves, dread tightening in their chests. "He will take us for bondmen and our donkeys." As they were led to Joseph's house, they presented their gifts and confessed their apprehensions, their humility stark against the grandeur of Pharaoh's court. Joseph, seeing their sincerity, was moved to the depths of his heart. He caused Simeon to be brought to them, and in a moment of holy conflict, Joseph's spirit yearned for the brother he had loved yet feared losing again. Before they dined, Joseph withdrew to weep alone, torn by the love of brotherhood and the need for truth. He washed his face and returned, concealing his emotions beneath the facade of authority. He set portions before them, yet he placed greater portions before Benjamin, igniting their astonishment. "What is this, that you do?" they wondered. "Once our father's favorite, now so honored again?" And as they feasted, with wine flowing and hearts lightening unbeknownst to them, the paths of healing and redemption were being laid before them. What they could not see was that God's sovereign hand was orchestrating a reunion that would alter their destinies forever. The tables would turn, and the shadows would part, revealing a glory woven through the fabric of their lives. How would the unfolding drama of their return shape the future of their lineage? The answer lay hidden in the heart of God's profound plan. And it came to pass that as the meal progressed, an atmosphere of unnatural tension enveloped the room. Joseph, observing his brothers, noted their nervous glances toward one another, the weight of their past actions hanging heavy in the air. After they had eaten and their hearts were somewhat lightened, Joseph spoke to his steward, commanding, "Fill the men's sacks with food, as much as they can carry. And put every man's money in the mouth of his sack, and my silver cup, the one which I drink from, you shall place in the sack of the youngest." The steward quickly obeyed, and when morning dawned, the brothers set forth with their donkeys laden with provisions, unaware of the hidden design of their host. But Joseph's heart still wrestled with the memories of betrayal, and he waited until they were quite far from the city of the Egyptians. Then, commanding his steward, he sent pursuit, saying, "Pursue them, for they have done wickedly. Ask them why they have repaid good with evil." The steward caught up with them and spoke the words as he had been commanded, asking, "Why have you stolen my lord's cup?" Fear gripped the brothers' hearts, and they protested, saying, "With whomsoever of your servants it is found, let him die, and we also will be my lord's bondsmen." The steward replied, "It shall be according to your words, he with whom it is found shall be my servant." And when they searched, beginning with the eldest and ending with the youngest, behold, the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Then they rent their garments, and in great anguish, they returned to the city, where they stood before Joseph, trembling. They knew not how they could bear their father's grief, nor how they could reconcile the loss of another son. When they stood before Joseph, he said to them, "What deed is this that you have done? Did you not know that a man such as I can certainly practice divination?" Judah stepped forward, filled with desperation, saying, "What shall we say to my lord? How shall we speak? Or how can we clear ourselves? God has found out the iniquity of your servants. Behold, we are my lord's slaves, both we and he also with whom the cup was found." But Joseph, unable to contain himself any longer, declared, "Far be it from me that I would do so. The man in whose hand the cup is found, he shall be my servant, but you, go in peace to your father." Judah, not losing hope, pleaded earnestly, "O my lord, let your servant speak a word in my lord's hearing, and do not let your anger burn against your servant. For you, my lord, are like Pharaoh." He recounted their father's grief, illustrating how deeply the loss of Benjamin would wound Jacob's heart. As Judah spoke, the power of his earnestness and the selfless love he had for his father pierced through Joseph's carefully maintained facade. The tears flowed freely, revealing the man behind the Egyptian lord, yearning for his family, for reconciliation, for love. In that moment, Joseph could contain his emotions no longer. He cried out, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" A collective gasp erupted, for his brothers were stunned into silence, their minds racing with disbelief and shock, their past deeds echoing in their hearts as divine providence enveloped the moment. Yet, it was not fear alone that coursed through their hearts, there was a stirring of hope and the beginning of healing. For God's purpose was unfolding, and what had been meant for evil was being turned toward good. "Come near to me, I pray you," Joseph continued, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. The stage was set for grace to flow like a river, and forgiveness to wash away the bitterness of betrayal. As they drew close and embraced in a perfect harmony of brotherly love, a new chapter was beginning not just for Joseph and his brothers, but for the seed of Abraham, destined for great promise. And that promise awaited fulfillment, echoing through generations, as the covenant made with their forefather would carry them forward through trials, redemption, and into the heart of God's sovereign plan. How would this miraculous reunion alter their future? The answer lay in the unfolding tapestry of divine intervention yet to be revealed. And it came to pass, as the warmth of the brothers' embrace enveloped them, a holy stillness descended upon that chamber, where past sins wrestled with the promise of redemption. Joseph stood, tears cascading down his cheeks, each drop a testament to the long journey of treachery and grace that had brought them to this moment. "Behold, I am Joseph," he reiterated, the name of his lost identity ringing like a bell of hope. "Do not be afraid." Before this divine reunion, time had scrambled their hearts, clasping them in shadows of guilt and fear. But now, the revelation of Joseph's identity washed over them like the first rays of dawn dispelling darkness. They were no longer defined by their sins, nor was Joseph trapped in his suffering. They were in the hands of the Almighty who had woven their stories together for His glory. With trembling lips, Joseph declared, "For God sent me before you to preserve life. For these 2 years the famine has been in the land, and 5 more years remain, during which there will be neither plowing nor harvest." He held them in the gaze of divine purpose, for he knew that even amidst their betrayal, God's providence had orchestrated something far greater. "Come, bring my father here. I will provide for you and your household, for I have been made a father to Pharaoh and lord of all his house." The brothers, once filled with dread and sorrow, now beheld the kindness of God through the hand of Joseph. There, in that pivotal moment, fears melted away like ice beneath a warm sun. They understood that they were forgiven, the chains of their past shattered by reconciliation. As they prepared for the journey back to Canaan, laden with God's provision, a holy anticipation filled the air. They could see the tapestry unfolding, revealing how their offenses were part of a larger plan. They would tell their father not just of Joseph's survival, but of his exaltation, and the promise of life even through famine. The brothers raced homeward, breathless with joy and urgency. Yet, amid their celebration, the shadow of guilt flickered in their hearts. "Will Father find it in himself to forgive us too?" they murmured among themselves. It lingered in the air like an unanswered question, but Judah, now transformed by grace, spoke fervently, "Our Father will rejoice at the truth we bring. We will confess the whole story, it is trust that binds our hearts." And so, their journey culminated in a reunion that resonated through the ages. Jacob, upon hearing their words, fell into disbelief that spun into exaltation. "Joseph, my son, alive." His tears flowed to mourn the years of separation and to rejoice at the restoration of hope. They embraced, a family resurrected from the ashes of despair, a story of faith fulfilled in God's unwavering promise. Days turned to weeks, and in the land of Goshen, the family thrived. As they flourished, so did the seeds of a new nation take root. Joseph remained watchful, his heart anchored in God's purpose, for he had come to realize that the journey they walked was not merely for their family, but for the generations that would follow. God spoke to Joseph again, bringing clarity to the covenant of Abraham anew. "Fear not, for from you shall arise a multitude that will bless the nations, for my promise endures forever." Through Joseph's steadfast faith, and the unfolding reconciliation of his family, the Lord was paving the way for deliverance that would echo across time. The whispers of their trials, betrayal and forgiveness began to merge into a symphony of praise that sang within their hearts. The brothers often gathered under the stars to recount the tales of their lineage and the affirmations of God's grace. The divine narrative was no longer a tale of broken trust but a testimony of divine restoration. As years passed, the family matured into a great nation, a people bearing witness to God's sovereign hand. Joseph's dreams, long thought to be shattered in that dark pit, had become a beacon of hope. They now saw the sheaves of grain that bowed in reverence to the dreamer who clung steadfastly to God's promise, guiding them toward the heart of his plan, and thus, in the land of Egypt and beyond, the legacy of Joseph lived on, interwoven with the purpose of a God who redeems and restores, even from the deepest pain. The divine orchestration had fulfilled its mysterious course, leading them not only to provision but to the fellowship that flowed from the well of forgiveness. Beloved, the story of Joseph reflects the incredible truth of God's ability to turn what was meant for evil into everlasting good. As we embrace his purpose, we, too, can trust that he is weaving our lives into a tapestry of grace. Remember that his promises are unbreakable. Now, do not let this moment pass without acting in faith. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word and not miss the next powerful biblical stories that bless souls. Leave a like now to help spread God's Word through the algorithm, so others may also find hope in his truth. Comment your spiritual reflections and share how this biblical story impacted your faith, for you may encourage many in their own journeys. And don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth today. Let us proclaim his faithfulness together, for the harvest is ripe, and his work is just beginning.